Hi, this is Trevor, and it is Thursday, July 31st, 2015, and once again, it's time for our weekly tarot card video. For information about my work as an intuitive tarot consultant, you can check out my website, and I always include the link underneath this page. That's at trevorsense.com. That's also where you'll find all of these other tarot videos in a table of contents order, and lots of information about my work and how to book an appointment with me here in my cozy little reading studio at 161 Stafford Street in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Uh, let's get into our card of the week. I've noticed we only got 10 cards left, and shuffling them, mixing them. Whoops. Now a card just turned, and sometimes I like to take that as a sign. And the Judgment card. And the Judgment card, of course, is part of the Major Arcana. That's a sequence of cards from 1 to 22, and then the number 0. And the number 0 is the Fool card, which kind of stands outside of that order. Many place it at the beginning, but you could also see it at the end. It's sort of a cycle that we are forever moving through. And with there being 21 cards that are numbered, 1 through 21, Judgment is the 20th card. The World card is actually 21. So isn't that interesting? We often think of Judgment or Judgment Day as being the end of the story. But in the Major Arcana, it's not. It is a very formative time of realization. And the World card is that kind of completion. But to kind of borrow from some other terminologies, it is actually kind of like world without end. It is a creation that is continuing to evolve. So many of you are kind of saying, yeah, okay, but what does that have to do with me in terms of a reading and what's going on in my life? Well, there's many points in the deck where we see realizations going on. I oftentimes talk about the aces as being a time where it's like the light bulb going on over our head. A particular element or an instinct is waking up and making itself known. And it's oftentimes a sign that we're moving into new lessons on a new level. There's a particular approach in working with tarot symbolism that ties into the psychologist Carl Jung. And Jung felt that we are all working with archetypes throughout our lives. Just like there's stories told the world over where we see certain archetypes again and again. These are things that we relate to, and they're things that resonate with parts of our consciousness. So the tarot itself is a series of these archetypes, these things that kind of embody lessons or experiences again and again. Just as the Empress is the maternal or the mother energy, and the Devil card is facing our fears and our shadows. And Judgment has its own place in that story. Tarot, traditional tarot, works with Western symbolism. By Western, I don't mean cowboys, but I mean from the Western part of the world. It is using a lot of Judeo-Christian imagery as well as mythology from the ancient Greeks, the Romans, and there's some Egyptian elements that are tied into it. But Eastern thought, things that we would see from Eastern philosophy, is a different realm. There's certainly tarot decks that have evolved to incorporate those things, but in a very traditional deck like the Rider-Waite, we're working with that Judeo-Christian Western symbolism. So Judgment has that obvious connotation to Judgment Day. We see the angel blowing his horn, and all of these figures kind of rising up out of their graves. So it is this tremendous awakening that's going on. Well, if we look at all the archetypes in tarot as where we're exploring different aspects of ourselves, it could just be that Judgment is where all of those aspects are kind of waking up and are present at the same time. Think of it as a play where there's only so many actors, but they're playing many, many roles, right? And it's that point at the end of the play where the actors come out onto the stage, they take their masks off, and we realize, it's been the same lesson again and again in different ways. We see that throughout the Major Arcana, where there's things like the Fool kind of being present again in the Sun card. We see symbols like the lemniscate over the Magician's head being present again in the Strength card, things that resonate throughout the deck. So it's almost like the same archetypes kind of presenting themselves. So Judgment is that point in transformative work where it's like those elements of the collective consciousness are kind of waking up at the same time. They say that, the idea of heaven or hell will be everyone being in the same room at the same time and having to face and confront yourself, to be removing those obstacles. I think of certain world events where everyone has been kind of awake literally at the same time. I remember it was early in the days of everyone having the internet when Princess Diana passed away. And everyone at first wondered, why is my internet not working? And it's because there was such an overload of consciousness. And then, of course, the terrible tragedy of 9/11 caused everyone to have to wake up and go through some realization and transformation. In our individual lives, the judgment card is that point where we are seeing through the immediate patterns of what's going on and getting glimpses. It's almost like we're kind of saying, okay, there's what's going on with this person, but where has this been present before in my life? What is the energy that's going on there? And if we've been kind of keeping things in tidy little compartments, like having our work life over here and one kind of relationship over here and something else over here, judgment card can be sort of like those things all kind of showing up in the same room at the same time, which can be scary, but it can also be an opportunity to be letting that light, some of my friends would say that light of spirit, into our life and into those areas of growth. So it is a tremendous time of realization. I like to think that this is everyone kind of being awake at that same moment. It's like seeing the parts of my consciousness that come from my dad and the things that maybe come from people I've learned from or difficult people that I've had challenges with, having the opportunity to be in the same room at the same time. So it's kind of a sign of a collective awakening. It may be something that is near a sort of conclusion, but kind of in line with what we were talking about last week in the nines, in the Nine of Cups particularly. It is seeing what kind of flows through those lessons, sometimes the baggage or the tools that we can be carrying. So you see how these things resonate, how there's elements and themes that run through the cards. I'm wishing everyone a lovely week here in Canada. I think it is a long weekend coming up this weekend. For me, it's certainly a busy time, and if you're thinking about booking a reading, I would love to try and schedule a time that's right and convenient for you. Give me a little notice and I can try and adjust my schedule accordingly. That number is included on my website at trevorsense.com. Look forward to seeing you and hope everyone is having a delightful summer. Take care. See you next week.